We are gathered here today to say goodbye to Streams After Midnight, because beyond this day we can no longer continue in good faith to produce this show. Because this has been this has been a horror movie podcast that many of you have enjoyed for the past few years. Right, we're coming up on our 5th anniversary soon. That's going to be a big deal in May, or it would have been a big deal, but unfortunately Brahms the Boy 2 is the movie we're here to talk about today. And once
you talk about the best movie, you just gotta call it quits.
I mean, I was sitting there sitting there in the theater today, and I'm watching this movie.
Tax theater.
And no, there was 2 other people. I'm sitting in the theater and watching this movie, and all I could think was, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore. This has broken me. I can't believe I had to do The Boy 2. I am, of course, kidding. This is Streams After Midnight.
You watched like 8 Rob Zombie movies, and you're able to persevere.
We have not done it. We've done 31 and 2 Halloween movies. We've done 3 Rob Zombie movies. 3.
Oh, geez, it felt like 8.
In fact, we have to get to 3 from Hell sometime. Somewhere.
Yes, we do.
We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So yes, this is Screams After Midnight. We're a horror movie podcast. We're going to talk about Brahms the Boy 2. The Boy 1, of course, was a big notable entry in the Screams After Midnight pantheon, which
I think a fan favorite, you might say.
I mean, maybe the review is a fan favorite, but not for the right reasons. So, Tim enjoyed The Boy in 2016. I thought it was trash. It was trash, and there's been much anticipation for our discussion of Brahms the Boy 2, which will of course start spoiler free. We will give you warning before we go into spoilers, and we're going to go from here. So this is the sequel to The Boy. Now, I do want to say, as much as we're in spoiler-free territory, I do have to spoil the first film to talk about this properly, I think.
Okay.
Right? So, the twist in the first movie...
Yeah, if you haven't seen the first Boy, what are you doing? Turn this off. Watch that right now.
So, the twist in the first Boy is that there wasn't anything supernatural. You had Laura Cohen, going through the house, looking after this doll. It felt like there was something supernatural. The doll's creepy. There's some Annabelle shtick going on. Yeah. And the twist was that it wasn't supernatural, that there was actually the boy who used to live here still lives here. He's a fully grown 7-foot man who lives in the walls, and he's been doing all the things. And that's why one of Brahms' rules was that he has to be given food. And that seems silly, but the twist was, of course, that no, there was a real person taking that food, and that's why you had to feed him.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I think this is fairly common in the UK.
Sure. We're not doing this. So the trailer comes out for Brahms the Boy 2, right? And I'm watching the trailer for this movie, and I'm like, okay.
Wait, actually.
Yes.
No. As I was watching this movie, I thought to myself, like, damn, this is like a Pete-ass movie. Like,
what?
Pete's gonna love it. Like, first of all, it has a very clear set of rules, and you know how you love rules in a movie. It's got your girl from Batman Begins in it, and is probably like filmed in your backyard. Like, I was like, damn, like this is like a goddamn Pete-ass movie.
First of all, how dare you? How dare you, sir? Secondly, it's funny you mentioned Batman Begins and filming in my backyard, because the new Batman movie is actually filming in Glasgow.
All right.
So, yeah, the new Batman movie has actually been filmed in Scotland, bizarrely. So, fair play.
Well, maybe Mirror Master will be one of the villains.
I get that reference. All the fans of our show who are not comic nerds, though, do not get that reference, but I appreciate it, Tim. So I'm watching the trailer for this movie, and I'm like, wait, why are we doing Brahms having supernatural, teases again? Because in the trailer, you see, his eyes move, you see, other big CGI moments happening, and it's like, are we really going to tease the supernatural when we know from the first movie what's really going on? If it felt like a really weird choice, and I'm like, what are they doing with a second movie? And obviously we can't talk about it till spoilers, exactly what's going on, but very much once again we have to suffer through an hour of, is something really happening, or is it all in their heads, is it some rational explanation. The movie follows Katie Holmes and her family. She's got a young boy, because as I mentioned on the news, which you'll see either earlier today or tomorrow depending on when you're watching this, like, the trope of the creepy young kid is like terrible, and this movie goes into that territory because the kid befriends Brahms and starts acting more and more like Brahms and dresses like Brahms and all this kind of shtick. And they move into the guest house that's near the big main house from the first movie, and of course there's a slow build of like, is the doll doing stuff? Is it making her son violent? Is he getting over? Because the big inciting incident is at the start of the movie when they're living in an apartment in the city. Some burglars break in the house and attack Katie Holmes, and this traumatizes both her and her son. And he doesn't speak; he's become mute. He only writes on a pad now, and that is kind of like the setup of the trauma of the film. And then from there it's like, oh, is Brahms a healthy thing because it's making him better, or is it causing potentially violent tendencies? And I'll leave that there for spoiler free sake, and we'll continue with plot stuff and spoilers. But I'll ask the question, because I know Tim's sitting there waiting. He's got his butt cheeks clenched, just waiting to be asked so he can let it all flow through him. Not hate. I wish it was hate, but it's not the dark side. Trust me. What's going to flow through him in a minute is very much the opposite color. So, Tim,
yeah.
How did you feel as a fan of the first one? How did you feel about Brahms the Boy 2?
Well, first of all, please do not talk about my ass. I feel, as an employee, I feel that crosses some ethical boundaries that I'm not comfortable with.
Send your complaints to the HR department, which I am also in charge of, so good luck with that. To continue.
Second of all, as I was driving to the theater, which, I don't think we've actually been to the movies since we moved, so we're trying out a theater. It's a little closer to us. I was a little nervous because it's like a mall one.
Wait, that can't be true.
Okay.
But you've been in this place since what, like October?
No, it was just December we moved in. I think like middle-ish of December.
We must have done a theater release since December.
The last one would probably have been Black Christmas, but I feel like we did that kind of early.
That's true.
Yeah, I think it's still either it's still at the old place or we went to the theater near the old place.
Joe, I think it is. I think it's because we were expecting to Grudge and Fantasy Island, and both ended up getting pushed on my side, so we couldn't do them. So I guess I was expecting tons of theater releases, and we ended up not having them until this. But fair enough. But
I'm trying to decide if if we want to make this our go-to theater. It is an AMC, which means I can get that AMC pass, which would be nice. Mm-hmm. We can see like 3 movies a week. It is pretty close, but you do have to get you do have to get on the highway, which depending on what time you leave, like the traffic can be a little bit annoying. And then and like I said, it's in a mall, and with malls come teenagers, and I don't like going to the movies with teenagers. Not that adults are always that better, and oftentimes sometimes I'll be surprised when like you see like some like 40-year-old ass dude in the theater like acting like super annoying.
I love Tim. I'm pretty sure Tim did this in the first Boy review, where he really set the mood of what his theater experience was like. He talked about how people were in the audience, what the mood was in the room, what he had for a snack.
I was actually surprised because there was actually a decent amount of people that came into the theater, and
lies.
No, serious. I mean, this was Friday, 8:00.
Sure.
At a busy place, so. But I do think once the movie starts, I think there should be like trailers are fine, I guess. But once the movie actually starts, you gotta stop letting people in. Like there were people coming in like 15 minutes into the movie. I'm like, what are you doing? You're missing like all this important setup stuff. But whatever. But I was kind of nervous because I saw some not so great reviews. I guess, saw some people saying like, oh, it's cheap and generic or whatever. And I started to get nervous. I was like, oh man, like, is this going to be like our first bad boy movie? Like, I don't, and I'm not talking about the Bad Boys movie, but like, the first Bad the Boy movie. Like, I don't know if I can handle that. But
first, the deluded, like, retconning and headcanon that you have that somehow, like, what? Continue. I can't.
But as we're watching this, I think they do some like really interesting stuff in the beginning. That like sets up this kind of like arc of like trauma that you see throughout the movie, and then as it keeps going on and on, I'm like, oh, this is like doing like interesting stuff. I'm kind of digging this, and like eventually overall, definitely not as good as the first one, but I was pleasantly surprised that they were able to pull off like a fun sequel. And like I believe I mentioned this on Twitter. I do think it raises more questions than it answers, but I mean that just makes me hope that we get a third one because after this ending, it's like, okay, I need to know what's going on here. But yeah, no, I was I was pretty happy with it.
Oh boy.
That's boy too.
Yeah, this movie sucks. Like generic ass scares, the same old creepy doll shit that you've seen in the first movie and other movies. The core drama is dull. It barely escalates. I was happy it was over, don't get me wrong, but I was shocked that the big climax was the climax. I was like, really? That was your big thing in the third act? That was that? We're already over? When it cut to credits, I thought that because the movie's quite short, thankfully, mercifully, it's quite short, and I thought that it goes to a little bit at the end, which I won't talk about what it is, but I thought there was going to be a whole other section, like, do you know how like in like Speed, there's like the whole like train section at the end that kind of like on after the main sort of part of the movie's done. I thought we were going to get like that section where it was like an extra like 15 minutes of this other like sort of conclusion, and it just cut to black. It was like, nope, that's the director's name. I'm like, oh, okay, we're just done. All right, happy days. I'll leave.
No, I agree. I also wanted more from
it. So. I feel like this movie is the main stuff I want to rant about. I can't do it till spoilers, but the actual core of the movie is just generic tropey stuff that's not particularly well presented. It's not necessarily the worst presentation of this stuff either, but it's just the same old tropes, the same old, oh, the doll's eyes moved, or oh, it was this or it was that, oh, at one point there's one like potentially interesting thing that's brought up at some point which could have been cool, and the movie just glosses over it and never brings it up again. It's so frustrating. There's a moment where there's speculation that because she also went through a trauma, that Katie Holmes, maybe she's the one doing the bad stuff and the chaos, and the husband kind of thinks, well, maybe you've kind of lost it. But after that scene, it's never mentioned again. They just never think about it again. It's gone.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do think like the like the idea of trauma, like obviously it's very present in in the child Jude, which you see kind of his arc.
Jude.
But I do feel like they maybe were kind of starting to go somewhere with it with Katie Holmes's character, that it kind of feels like they kind of just drop off and like don't go back to.
Yeah, and the kid's a horrible actor as well. Let's just get that out of the way right now.
What? Why was he bad?
Oh, he's terrible. See, when he starts dressing like Brahms and he stands there trying to look creepy. It's creepy kid problem. It's what you hated about The Ring 2 when the kid was like putting the tux or the clothes out for the mom, and he was standing there in his suit for the funeral. It was the same sort of crap.
Yeah, Ring 2 is horrible. But no, I mean, well, first of all, I think the kid was perfectly fine. He doesn't even speak throughout most of the movie. And then once he does kind of start talking, it's like, well, there's like some freaky shit going on, so I can kind of forgive him if maybe he's being like a little stilted or something. But I think it's freaky when people try to dress like their doll. That's one of the great grand traditions of horror, is a kid dressing up like their doll.
What the hell are you even talking about? What are you even spouting out of your mouth, Tim? That, I mean,
I love anytime like someone like looks at Brahms and then they just like will have like an intense like close up of his face. That was like the funniest thing. Because he kind of has like a nemesis in this one. It's like this groundskeeper that like you kind of feel like they have a beef. And it's like every time they like looked at each other.
More on that in spoilers for sure. So I want to talk about another trope that we have in this. We get the research scene where Katie Holmes whips out her laptop and starts looking up things, right?
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, a lot of what she looks up is established in the first movie, so it doesn't feel like just random shite she's finding until she starts looking into some other things, right? But we get this montage of her looking at stuff, and it does this really cliched thing where it's like she's looking over so you're looking at her like from behind the laptop, so the laptop's covering like the bottom half of her face, right? So we just see her eyes, and we see like the sort of the overlay of like all the pages she's looking at, like the text like sort of floating past her face, right? So it does that kind of like old technique of like seeing all the information sort of like floating around her head and past her face, and then her face morphs into Brahms at one point, and it's just this horrible
inspired filmmaking.
Yeah,
what he's trying to say is we're all Brahms.
Oh my god, I hated it so much. It just, I guess, time for spoilers. I can't hold back. There's nothing else to talk about outside of spoilers. It's trash. Don't waste your money on it.
It's a hoot.
It's a hoot. My ass. So I will take this time to thank, before we get to spoilers, our Patreon producers. So thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Sandy Palacios, and Tyler Hess for being Patreon producers. That means they're patrons at the $20 or above tier, and you can be supporters as well, of course, for as little as $1 per month over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. For that $1, you get access to the bonus exclusive Patreon episode that we do every month. There's a back catalogue now of about 13 or whatever, and you get access to those as well as some bonus from some of the other shows we do. At $5 and up, you get access to these reviews now a day early before everyone else, and you also get what was that, Tim? You do actually Tim's scratching. I'm glad everyone knows that.
Scratching my arm. Calm down.
All right, okay, just check. You got me on edge. You also get access to the monthly vote, of course. Make sure $5 and up patrons vote by the end of the month, because that's when the vote ends for the next batch, and then we'll have a new batch up in sometime middle of next month. But that is our patron plug, I suppose we'll call that.
Pete has a list of rules, and number one is always thank the patrons.
Yes. See, I think you misunderstand the rules thing, Tim. See, the rules for me are the rules of how the thing operates. This is not that. The rules in this movie are a list of rules that the character gets. They don't even make sense in the context of what this movie reveals.
I don't even know if you really like. Do they even? There's like 10 rules. I was like, do we even like see what all 10 are?
Nah.
Like, I'm sure if we freeze the frame, we can. But like, I don't think any of them like ever matter.
Nah, I think 2 of them. There's only 2 that are ever brought up. Really, there's always feed Brahms and no guests allowed. That is the 2 that come up. Yeah. Everything else pretty much gets ignored.
It's weird that they really like. Out of everything, like they really dig into the feeding him part.
Oh yeah, really. So let's talk then, and spoilers. So full spoilers for Brahms, the boy 2. All right, so here's the thing. So we'll talk about all this stuff in the movie, but we do have to kind of skip to the reveal, because I feel like it's going to inform how we talk about a lot of the other scenes. So the reveal in this movie.
We get Uber Brahms.
The reveal in this movie. Shut up! I'm not. Don't. How dare you compare this to Jason X? How dare you? How dare you sully the good classic that is Jason X? So the reveal in this movie, we get a giant retcon. We get a retcon that Brahms is in fact supernatural, and that the Brahms that grew up and was living in the walls in the first movie was just the next in his latest line of people who he makes crazy and like his servant essentially. So he's done this before, because we get Katie Holmes is looking at like drawings of like the Brahms doll, like making people go crazy like from 500 years ago.
Just like old-timey newspapers of like just drawings of like children stabbing their parents.
So we have that, and we have like the idea that the groundskeeper turns out to be the previous victim. He's working for Brahms. Like this is a thing. So
it's Renfield.
So here's my thing, right? The whole point of the first movie, the whole crux of that movie is that, okay, we're teasing that it's supernatural, but the twist is that it's just a guy in the walls, right?
Great twist.
Yes, you like that twist. You're saying it. You're on the record right now saying you like that twist.
Yes.
So how do you feel now that this movie, because they didn't want, because basically the reason why this retcon exists is because they wanted it to still be a creepy doll movie, and you can't really do that after the ending of the first movie, right? Because at this point we kind of know. And for the first chunk of the movie, I'm like, man, I spend so much time in this doll, and is it creepy? Is it doing things? Like, this is a waste of time. This is an absolute waste of time. And it's not like the reveal that it is supernatural made me happy. I just felt like, oh, you've somehow backdoored your way into being allowed to do creepy Brahms shit again, and I hate it. I hate it so much.
You don't get it. So this is a film series that's it's basically it's known for its twists. So so if you have the first movie where the twist is that it's not supernatural, what bigger twist can you have than in the second movie then you reveal that it was supernatural? Like, that is a twist on a twist, as they say. But
doesn't that like, if you go back and rewatch the first one now, doesn't it just kind of ruin that twist?
No, it makes me feel like, okay, so what's going on here that I don't know? like that's why I need either. I guess I'd probably need a third movie and a prequel to fully.
Oh no! No, we don't need 4 boy movies. How dare you? The Brahms cinematic universe. I don't need this.
But I mean, it makes sense though, because in the first movie, Brahms, like he had that weird mask, so it's like, oh, okay, I guess like his followers must wear this mask, so that makes sense.
This is a bunch of retcons, because when they were making The Boy 2, they wanted to have more creepy doll stuff, and it didn't make sense given what the twist in the first one was. So they actively had to change everything around in a big plot twist to justify why it actually is supernatural, and why we're still doing, the doll moved, the doll's up to something.
Well, I mean, I suppose you're right. I guess there's never been any other horror movie franchise that had a first movie that wasn't supernatural and then subsequent movies that were supernatural. I guess you're right. That's never happened before.
What are you thinking of specifically?
Friday the 13th, Halloween, kind of.
What Friday the 13th? Dead Jason comes up out the lake at the end of the first movie. That's already supernatural.
The majority of the movie is not supernatural, though, and you could easily say that that's just a hallucination or dream or something. You could easily wash that away. But then,
I mean, Halloween is kind of supernatural in the first one, but even if I agree that, okay, that didn't really happen till later, guess what? All the ones that go full supernatural are terrible, and the bad sequels, which no one appreciates. So, shut your face. Your analogy is not working. Not analogy, comparison. Like, you've made me all flustered. I can't speak now. You made me angry. I'm upset.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could maybe see some people getting a little irked up about this if we did not get such a badass design. I love the boy without his mask. He looks cool as hell.
That's like one moment at the end. That doesn't justify the rest of it.
The third movie, I want like one where it's like, no, like he's back and he's full demon now. He's got the teeth eye, and he's ready to cause some damage.
Joe, party. So when the kid finds Brahms in the woods, like buried,
Yeah.
and he picks it up and he wants to keep it. Like, they treat Katie Holmes, because it's all dirty from being in the dirt, so Katie Holmes is like, okay, I need to clean it before you can do anything else with it. They treat, like, her cleaning this like it's an autopsy. He's on the kitchen counter, it's this full body shot, and she, like, takes off his clothes and folds them all up, and she's, like, doing, like, swabbing around his eyes, and, like, it's this extended sequence of cleaning the doll, and I'm like, this is doll porn. What is happening right now?
No, this is bullshit though, because you complain about that, but if they didn't include it and they just showed him like clean the next scene, you'd be like, how'd he get so clean? Like, why didn't they show her cleaning him? So you're never happy.
If she said we have to clean him and then it cut to later and it was nighttime and he was clean, I wouldn't complain. That is a fine transition. How dare you? You are putting words in my mouth and I do not appreciate it, Timothy. I do not appreciate it. Okay, so she gets attacked at the start. The husband's away at work, and afterwards, and it's not. And for the record, there's no indication that there was any kind of like sexual assault or anything like that. It was just burglars in the house who kind of like knock her out or whatever. But it scared the shit out of her, and I'm just making
a very scary experience.
Oh yeah, I'm not down that. I'm just specifying just for the sake of the themes that it's not a sexual violence theme. It's just it's just a feeling of unsafety.
So. Also a nice nod to the first movie about having a unwelcome guest in your house.
That's not a nod. That is such a stretch. You're stretching right now. Oh my god. Alright, so they go to the house in the countryside, which happens to be the guest house that's on the grounds of the big manor from the first one.
Hillshire Manor.
Finds Brahms, and Brahms makes him feel comfortable. Kate Holmes thinks it's creepy, and they overhear him talking to it at one point, and he's not been talking to them for months, so they're all excited and they're happy. And if I'm going to give the movie any kind of credit, is that just when it feels like she's got enough of a reason to want to take Brahms away, the fact that it gets him talking again for the first time in months is believable that she would swallow whatever problem she had and say, you know what, okay, it's helping my son, I'll go with it for now, right?
To quote her character, which I'm surprised they didn't include this line in the trailer, but she does say, "I love this creepy doll."
She does indeed say that. That's quite right. And yes, so but of course as time goes on, things get worse because Jude won't do anything if they don't adhere to Brahms' rules. So they're at the dinner table, and at this point, Katie Holmes is really upset that he keeps, having the doll be involved in these conversations. So she's like, "No, we're the parents. We make the rules, not your doll. No food for Brahms." And Jude refuses to eat. And this is where, when she goes off camera for a second, like the table gets flipped, and he's got a notepad out and he says that you made Brahms angry.
Don't want to make him angry.
Yeah, and this is where the dad is like, "Hey, maybe this is you because this table's too heavy for him to." Because there's a couple of things before this where they're like, "Oh, hey, like he's acting out. The drawings are getting kind of creepy and violent. The groundsman dogs went missing, and they find out that maybe this dead." And they're like, "Hey, did he have something to do with this?" They're Skyping with a therapist. All these things. This is all going on, and it's all painfully boring. I don't even know how to sum it up beyond that. It's so uninspired. Like everything that Brahms does. Oh, he turned the TV on. Ooh.
I don't know. It's interesting to see, this family dealing with this situation and to see these parents like at their limits of, like what they can do for their child who is, suffering like some like severe trauma and clearly has issues, and there's just that feeling of like helplessness as to like, not being able to do anything about it. I thought that was riveting. I could have done with another hour of it, honestly.
They end up in the main house at one point, and Katie Holmes, like when she's like looking around like the kid's bedroom, picks up like a photo of like the kid from the first, the boy from the first movie became the man, right, and the parents, and it's this really badly photoshopped thing. Honestly, my first thought was, hey, that's one of Tim's paint Photoshop jobs. It looked so rough, and I like the movie. From here, the kid is getting more violent, and the big climax is that, like, the groundskeeper shows up and he's got his shotgun and he's threatening her, and
slow your roll, Mister. You're just gonna skip over like one of the most intense scenes of the movie when the cousins visit.
Oh yes, we have to talk about the cousins scene. You're right. So thinking it'll be healthy for Jude, they're like, hey, I'll get my brother over with his wife and kids, so we'll have the cousins over for me to play with, yada yada yada. And they come over and he's like,
ignoring one of the most important rules.
Yeah, no visitors allowed, no guests. And he's of course standing there quiet because he's weird. And his cousins, which is a brother and sister, the older brother's like, oh, you're such a weirdo. You're my parents think you're insane because you talk to this doll and blah blah. Mental. And the little sister's like being nice to him. Is like, no, don't be mean. Like, this is fine. What I thought was weird is that the older brother starts like saying, oh, you boyfriend and girlfriend now, you're sticking up for him. And I'm like, you're related to both of these people. Like, why would you crack that joke? I get that they're kids, but even as a kid, I wouldn't crack that joke about people who are related.
Was Jude supposed to have an accent?
I wasn't sure, because at first it was definitely just American, but there was the odd little thing that maybe go, because he really should have an accent, an English accent, because they're living in England, the dad's English, Katie Holmes is obviously the American wife, but like if he's grown up
still in England,
yeah, if he's grown up in England, he should have an English accent.
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell because he speaks so little in the movie, but yeah, it doesn't sound like he did. But to be fair, it's kind of hard to find English kid actors.
I think the actor was just so bad at doing the accent, we can't tell.
Maybe.
That's why
doing an accent's a lot to ask for a kid, though. Come on.
You find a kid that can do it, right? That's what you do. You cast in the movie, you find a kid that can do it. That's literally your job.
So, they play one of England's most famous sports. I don't know, cricket or whatever.
Cricket, yes. I was wondering if Tim would be able to name this. So they're playing cricket, and the big brother dude like sort of snaps one of the bats, and it leaves like a sort of spike in the ground, and then he steals his sister's hat, and Jude kind of like tries to defend her and get the hat back, and they're sort of like playing a tug of war with the hat, and it's setting up for the if Jude lets go, he's going to fall on the spike. The brother that is. And
I thought his head was gonna go through it. I was like, wow, is this movie gonna go there?
It would have been better if it did. It would have been a more exciting scene. But he falls in slow motion and gets impaled sort of just underneath the shoulder, kind of. So it's high up enough that he's probably okay. Just get to the hospital. But obviously everyone panics. There's this big accident, and it is convincing that it was an accident because it was lying on the ground. The sister could even verify that it was her big brother that made this spike and put it there. So it is an accident, although it's not really. This is clearly Brahms and Jude's doing.
Oh hell yeah.
So but he's getting creepier, he's wearing the mask, the groundskeeper comes over. It's actually when the dad's at the hospital, he hears from another person saying, oh hey, yeah, the last guy who went up there, that's Joe. Is that's the groundskeeper, he's crazy, and he runs back to try and save them, and
that's the groundskeeper, he's crazy.
He's Joe the groundskeeper. And it turns out he is actually being controlled by Brahms, and that he was supposed to bury the doll just so that Jude could find it. It was all part of Brahms' master plan.
He like you said, Brahms calls to people, which makes sense. And all right, this is I do admit I don't really like this part of the movie necessarily, because I kind of like the idea that Joe is gonna kind of be like a nemesis for Brahms, because he's always looking at him very sinister and I don't understand why Brahms killed his dog if they're friends, but
yeah, exactly, because Brahms Brahms kills the dog, And it's like, well, why? Like, if he was under Brahms' control, why does he care about his dog? Or why does it only bother him now that the dog doesn't seem to like him? Here's the question. Tell me if you can answer this, right?
Okay.
Why is one of the rules still to give Brahms food if there's no human that's taking the food? Why does the supernatural entity still want food to be given?
Well, he's still a living entity, so he still has to eat. I was under the assumption.
Shut up! Like the first movie, like I do not like the first movie. The first movie is a bad movie, but the one part of the twist that makes some amount of sense is that the reason why one of the rules was to give it food is because there was a real person living in the walls who needed to eat, and he was taking that food. Why is that still a rule in this movie? Why is that a rule that?
I mean, maybe like in the first movie when the real person was doing it, maybe like the evil doll saw that and was like, oh, like I kind of like that. Like maybe we can add that like to my rules, like my set of rules. I dig it.
This is a travesty. This is a travesty. They end up in the main house.
Which, like, at this point, it's just like, the first house is just like, it's so iconic. You know that they had to end up back there.
Iconic, yeah, sure. So
it was a little fan servicey, but I liked it.
From the fan service. There's no such thing as the boy fan service. There's nothing to fan service about. But they're in the furnace room, and like Brahms is upset. He's got a gun pointed at his mother, at Katie Holmes, and this is when the dad shows back up again, jumps in and like hits the Brahms doll over the head with a sledgehammer or something. And this is when we see like the weird fleshy demon monster that's inside the doll.
Love it.
Of course you do. And we have this big moment where Jude makes the choice to throw Brahms into the furnace, signaling that he is now better. And this is what I was talking about earlier, about how I didn't feel like this was actually the climax of the movie yet. It felt like just kind of a weird like mid-step. I didn't feel like we'd actually gotten to the point where all the stakes were that high. I think part of it is because there's almost no victims in the movie. Like, there's no one for like Brahms to really threaten or kill. Like, outside of the parents, who obviously can't die early if they're going to die because. God.
All right, yeah, not every horror movie has to have 50, body.
I'm not saying it's to be 50, but there's like no casualties. There's like one kid gets stabbed.
Why I kind of see why you don't like these movies. They're a little more cerebral. It's kind of more. It's more of a psychological horror. It's not a like, ooh, stabby, which I guess is what's a little more your speed, but. Sometimes terror can come from the mind, not from your eyeballs.
Look, this is a horribly paced. Well, it's not actually horribly paced, but it has a horrible momentum that doesn't really build. It just kind of decides that it's ending randomly.
That's probably like my other big complaint is that I do agree, like it does just end like we get him without his mask, which again I will be referring to as Uber Brahms, which I do hope catches on, but I think that is so cool, and at that point it's like, please, have him do like something now, like have him like run up the wall and do backflips like Yoda in Attack of the Clones or something, like start talking with like his big crazy voice or something. But kind of just like Jude just pretty calmly picks him up and throws him in the fire. So I will agree that was a little disappointing. I would have liked a little bit more, but again, if this is all just a big tease for like the gigantic explosion, end of the trilogy with Brahms 3, where it's all just set up for that, then I guess I'm cool with that.
Well, yeah, because the final reveal is that he's not actually gotten rid of Brahms. Brahms is still with him, and he puts on the mask. They're back in their apartment in the city, and he puts on his mask. It looks in the mirror and says, "Yeah, like." here will, basically what's happened is the kid has convinced Brahms that he doesn't have to stay at the house, like he can come somewhere else and do his thing. So I guess that's the appeal of the third one, if they ever get to make it, is that it's Brahms like in the city now. It's the Predator 2 of the boy.
Oh, Brahms in the city, that is a good title. Brahms takes
in fact,
Yorkshire, wherever it takes place.
York. Well, here's something they brought back from the first movie that I do want to complain about.
An American Brahms in London.
Brahms isn't American, though.
He's from hell.
Close enough to what you're saying. Is that what you're saying? No, one of the things they brought back from the first movie that I hated in the first movie and I hate it here is the goddamn dream sequences that happen like all the time. Like there's like 4 sequences in this movie where Katie Holmes wakes up. In fact, there's one where it's a dream within a dream. Gotta love one of those.
You simple-minded fool. This is an important part of the story. This is part of her trauma, is that she is having these nightmares. So it's not like a cheap like cigar grab. It's like, no, this is like,
you can do this in a new and interesting way. It doesn't have to be the same tropey, unimaginative cliche that we've seen 100,000 times before.
I honestly I don't know what movie you watched, but whatever. Oh
dear, I like the movie
is good.
The movie is just so determined to have a creepy doll movie. It's not even a good creepy doll movie. It's a really mediocre to bad creepy doll movie. But it's determined to get there that so much of the plot is just about trying to justify why that is what it is and not something different. And maybe if they went somewhere different because of what the first movie revealed it to be, it could have been interesting. But as it is, this is just generic trash. And the average rate in IMDb clearly has my back here because it's not looking good. It's not looking good. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, well, I don't know. And you can't trust these online trolls trying to tank the reviews because they know it's a woke movie and the internet hates that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to bring up Rotten Tomato scores to justify that I'm right in a movie argument because there's better ways to do it. But that's looking even worse than the IMDb score. I just want to tell you that right now. It's looking even worse. Even the audience scores not looking so hot, but the critic scores especially low.
Well, my challenge to anyone listening to this who hasn't seen the movie yet is go see the movie and decide for yourself. You might even need to see it a few times. Buy a couple of tickets, take a loved one, and make up your own mind. Don't take a loved one.
Don't if you want to break up with someone, take them to it because they'll want to dump you after it. But if you want your relationship to be healthy and survive, I wouldn't take anyone you care about to this. I wouldn't do that. Why would you do that? It's a terrible idea.
It was good. I mean, my theater, everyone was a buzz. Like you couldn't, everyone was talking about it afterwards. I did have to tell some people to, be easy on the way out because you don't want to spoil it for, other people that were in line waiting for the next showing. But no, I think the general consensus was that we all loved it. From my theater.
Why does Bad Boys for Life have a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes? That seems quite high for that. It didn't look that good.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Intrigued. Mildly intrigued. Anyway, yes, Brahms the Boy 2 is, if anything can follow up the 4 out of 10 that was The Boy, I think this is kind of exactly what I expect from a sequel in a lot of ways, even though it did things that I thought were super retconny. Like, it still feels kind of on par for what a bad sequel to a mediocre movie would be. So, Like, I think the trauma storyline was good. I think that the kid was a good actor. I thought the scares were just trite and mediocre and just cliched. The retconning to try and justify why it's a creepy doll movie, when let's face it, creepy dolls just aren't that interesting or exciting or usually, entertaining.
Wow.
I mean, that's really all. That's all I can. That's all I can really say at this point. So.
Well, I guess there's one on every podcast, I guess.
Which I guess leads us to rating the movie. So, Tim, if you would like to.
Jeez. Where to begin? Well, it's definitely not as good as the first one. I'll give you that. I'm trying to remember what I gave the first one. Probably like 8 something, maybe.
It was an 8.
Okay, so I have to definitely go lower than that, but it still does some interesting stuff. Has compelling characters. Gives me something that I haven't seen in a horror movie before, which is all really cool and interesting. I do have a few gripes. Like I said, mostly just I could use some more stuff, and I would have liked a little bit more of a big bombastic ending. So I don't know if they maybe spent too much money on the eyes for his teeth, maybe that they couldn't afford to do much more, which would be understandable. But I do wish we had a little bit more of that. But with that being said, I will have to drop it down to about a 6.5, which I think is still still good.
I don't
worth watching.
I don't feel like your tone and the way you have discussed this film have set anyone up for a 6.5. I feel like you're being honest with your rating. I mean, it's still too high, but you're being honest with your rating. But you wanted to put on the character, the facade of this Uber boy fan.
I do not know what you're talking about. I can only speak my truth, and I feel like I've done that.
This is a 3 out of 10. Pretty easy, pretty succinct.
Wow.
It's pretty much trash. It's not the worst thing ever. It's still a Hollywood movie, so it's got a relative level of polish to it. But unfortunately, that's one of the things that kind of almost goes against it, because you have these generic scares, these bad characters. You've got the generic Hollywood research the horror past scene, which Tim would often complain about, but for some reason it's okay in this one. Like, you've got all these things that make up a really bland, bad horror movie, and then you have the crappy sequel like justifications for why it is what it is, which just kind of irks me even more. So I give the first one a 4. I think this is even worse. I'm going to a 3 out of 10, and that is Brahms the Boy to Electric Boogaloo. So there you go. That has been the Boy sequel, which I know everyone was hotly anticipating our discussion on this one. But that is us. That has been Brahms the Boy 2 on Screams After Midnight. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.